Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP. John Paz. With me today, very special guest, former Tough Enough winner, former WWE superstar, former three-time WWF Hardcore champion. He is, of course, Maven. Maven, welcome. How you doing?
I'm well, John. How are you?
What's going on in your world? What have you been up to? Feels like
Oh,
you're jet setting.
yeah. It's this is like the first couple days I've had actually at home. So I was in Chicago. Starting up 2 weeks ago, I was in Chicago for a DraftKings event with Mojo, and then last week, actually a week ago exactly, I was in South Dakota filming with my YouTube partner. We were filming our next round of videos, and we actually got to go and film the. I did my wrestling Mount Rushmore, and we actually did it at Mount Rushmore, which was
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool. We were there for 7 hours because if you've ever been to Mount Rushmore, you understand just I mean, it's obviously a national monument, but I don't think people really understand just the power and majesty of that place until they're there. And it's a really cool setup, and they have paths leading all around it. And we were actually able to go off path and film because one of the things while we were there, obviously, I was enjoying it as an American, but I also I had work to do, and I didn't want to interrupt someone else's enjoyment of it. So while we were filming, obviously people see if once they see a camera, once they see people filming, they they're polite. They keep their voices to a minimum, and I didn't want to take away from others' enjoyment, so we were able to go off path and get a little bit of the filming done because we were just every time we would start, somebody else would come up.
That's a pretty cool idea, though. Like literally, hey, let's do the Mount
Yeah.
Rushmore of wrestling at Mount Rushmore. It's a great idea.
Absolutely. That's what we thought. And that's one of the things that I think makes our channel different is we're going to do stuff like that. Like when we did wrestling politics, and we did it from DC. Our video was on the National Mall with the background of the Capitol, the the Washington Monument, and the reflecting pool. It's just one of the things that both my partner and I, like I've said from day one, we're trying to make YouTube videos that just happen to deal with wrestling. And like if we have guests, we're not going to zoom them in. We're going to go to them. It's just one of the things that makes our content a little bit different. And here's what I will tell you: I won't give you my Mount Rushmore, but I will say two two people I think people will agree with, and then there's two people on the list that people are going to hate. They're going to hate it. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
give you a little tease there. And
Yep.
and my last jet setting was I was in Maine. I was actually hosting the Tri-State Lottery's Ultimate Dash in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. They brought 13 contestants in, and they gave them each 90 seconds to almost like a supermarket sweep style going through the warehouse. And I mean, they were getting real prizes like 65-inch televisions and iPhones and
Wow.
compute MacBooks and big grills. It was and then each contestant had a chance at $1 million. It was pretty cool.
Wow, amazing. Damn, very cool.
Yeah,
So you're literally all over the place. I was gonna say
I
I'm not gonna
trying to
mention the Mount Rushmore because you gotta watch the video to see the Mount Rushmore of who you
absolutely,
pick. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Man, all over the place. That's great though, because like the DraftKings things, that was cool. That was like completely different. So you're doing some wrestling stuff, but like you're mixing it up. Very, very
Try
cool.
trying to. I'm trying to. I mean, at this point in my career, obviously, with almost 50 years old, my wrestling days are over. So but I still think I can add some sort of value to just the entertainment world, and I enjoy it. I enjoy all forms of entertainment at this point. I love hosting, and for me, like with the lottery event, it was fun because there were 13 contestants that had no clue about wrestling, But by the end of our time together, we were there for 2 days. At the end of our time, I mean, I had people going on my channel and looking it up and being like, I can't wait to watch this on the way home. And, that's just, I like reaching out to people that might not be wrestling fans and then giving them a different perspective on the business I love so much.
So no more wrestling, right? You're retired.
I'll never say never in this business,
Yep.
but there would have to be a lot of zeros in the equation, and it would have to be the right circumstance.
I guess like earlier in the year you did a battle royal, right? For Booker T. So nothing like nothing too crazy as far as recently. Like you haven't gone in there and gone nuts.
No, that was a favor for Booker, and in return he did the favor for me with going on the channel and did the because, and I stated it with Booker, and I mean it. My favorite segment ever is him and Austin in the supermarket. That's just the funniest to me. That's the funniest thing wrestling's ever put out. And it's because you had at its peak Stone Cold and at its peak Booker. And they were just two guys I can't imagine any other two guys in that scenario, because they played it to perfection. And so being able to sit down with Booker and chop it up and talk to it, for Booker, it's almost like for me, whenever anybody talks to me, they talk about the Undertaker spot. And I get it. I understand it. With Booker, people always talk to him about the supermarket spot. And, so I was just honored at the fact that he sat and talked to me about it.
His facial expressions like make that segment, like a price check on a jacket. It's like, he's like dying or he's shocked about Austin. Just he makes that segment. Yeah.
Both of them played off of each other and gave each other exactly what the other needed. And I always viewed it as like just a vignette, something, like you see any other backstage segment. I always viewed it at that. But Booker, the way he described it, he broke it down as though it was a wrestling match. And I was like, holy cow, I've never looked at it this way. But it had everything a wrestling match has in it. You have your heel, your baby face, you have your baby face shine with Austin in the very, doing everything he did to Booker. And then you had your heat, you had the tables being turned once they went into the freezer. And it was just, it was just well written. It was just good television.
Unbelievable. One thing I never knew about that, was it actually like the supermarket was okay with it, or did they kind of say, "Oh yeah, we'll pay you for the damage," or were they like, "Wait, what the hell is going on?"
Yeah, no, they paid them. They were okay with it, and everybody inside it was plants. But they definitely had to cut a pretty good sized check.
Because imagine like, hey, we're just going to film in the supermarket, and then all of a sudden they destroy the place. I always kind of wonder, like, did they know what they were getting into with those two?
But after that, and I don't think it's a supermarket anymore, Booker was saying, but after that, it had to become like almost like a I would say a landmark. People had to show up. People had to show up, just to see where they filmed this historic wrestling thing.
Yeah. That's pretty cool though. Like as far as your show, like you said, like you do him a favor, he comes on the show. That's awesome. Like Spike Dudley, you go find Spike Dudley, who doesn't do a lot of stuff. I mean, pretty cool of you to do that. I like that. It makes your show different.
And I'm trying to just get people on that have unique stories to tell. Like Spike's story is, I don't think there's anybody that in wrestling that can tell the story Spike, told. And I mean, Spike for years had the hell beat out of him. And if you see Spike to this day, I see wrestlers all the time, and they look like they spend a lifetime wrestling. Hell, every morning when I wake up, I limp for 20 minutes. Spike looked great. Spike was walking around upright, had some pep in his step. And I was very happy to see that, just the torment that man went through, that he's still doing as well as he is.
And Muhammad Hassan, he looks great.
Oh, dude, I could argue he looks better now.
Yeah,
Like
just a little bit of gray hair, but better.
well, yeah, man, I got gray hair. I just
Yeah,
chop it off,
yeah,
like I was telling him. I can hide it easy.
yeah,
His physique, though, he's shredded. Like he is absolutely shredded. So and I'm just so happy that he's. I don't want to say doing better than he was when he was wrestling, but doing better than he was when he was wrestling. He's got a great job. He's got a beautiful family, and he's got the support of his community. John, there's some wrestlers that don't come out on the other end and ever have the ability to have a normal life. And
yeah.
I'm just so when you see it, I'm just happy for him.
Yeah, and what a story to tell too, because like that
Oh,
character was insane, and then now his real life
yeah.
is completely the opposite, right? I mean, just
Yep.
an insane story right there
And
with Muhammad.
and he's willing to tell the story. Like, some people for there were years I wanted to avoid wrestling back when I was bitter. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't want to do interviews. I didn't want to do signings. And he might have went through that, but now he's very open and just eager to tell his side. And it's a great story.
And it's awesome with the success of the channel. Like you get Undertaker on there. I mean that's awesome
Oh,
because obviously
yeah.
one of the all time greats.
Yeah. I mean, and just the fact that like I will carry for the rest of my life. He reached out to me. I would have never ever like had the balls to reach out and be, hey, Undertaker, you want to do the channel? So when they reached out to us, I was like, because he asked me to do 6 feet under his channel
Right,
first, and I was like, yeah, of course. And then normally I'll like if it's Booker, when Booker called and said, hey man, I want you to do this, battle royal. He was like, what's your rate? And I said, you won't have to pay me if you do my channel. And then he was just like, well, no problem. But like I was never going to ask Taker to do it. So then when they reached out to us, asked if I would do his channel, and I was like, absolutely. I would love it if Taker would do, one of our, and he, without hesitation, yeah, absolutely. And then being able to go to his house and we got done shooting, and then I stayed at his house for like 5 hours.
wow, nice.
Yeah. Trust me, I have no problem showing people the door in my house when it's time for them to go.
Right, right. That's pretty cool though. Like your career is kind of tied to him, and like you mentioned, people mention the
Oh
supermarket at
yeah.
Booker T. They always mention the Undertaker stuff with you, and that's pretty cool to be tied to him like that.
Yeah, it's if you there are very few people who are better there's better to be tied to. I mean, you're looking at a true legend, somebody that I don't think anyone would argue wrestling isn't what it is today without Taker. And he did, I would say, more for more talent, for more talent than anyone. He made so many people, myself included, he gave a lot of guys the rub when he didn't have to. And, he could have said no to a lot. My stuff at the top of the list. But it just goes to show just how much of a true professional he is. And on top of that, the Undertaker character is Hall of Fame, legendary, one of the best ever. The person, Mark Calloway, he's even better. And I'm just so thankful that he's telling his stories, and he's transitioned from Undertaker to Mark Calloway, because not only wrestling fans but the world needs Mark Calloway.
Are you surprised that he's so open, given that he didn't really do interviews?
Yes.
God, like basically his whole career.
Yes, he protected the character. I mean, I'm literally right in the middle of the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary, and Taker says in that documentary, up until especially right around the Monday Night Wars, he stayed in character. He stayed kayfabe the whole time, and so the fact that he speaks so freely now, it does shock me, but it's just where the world has went. The world has gotten to a place where, we're not going backwards. People value information, and information you can monetize information at this point. And I mean, he could start telling stories now and probably not stop for 10 years and never tell the same story twice if he wanted to.
Yeah, literally. I mean, he's been in every era: Hogan era, the
Yeah.
Austin era, the Cena era, the Lesnar era, the what do you call it, the Reigns era. I mean, he's been in every era,
Yep.
so he's got
All of
plenty
them.
of stories.
All of them. And as great of a wrestler as he is, he's a better human being. The man, he's just an amazing person. And there's some wrestlers that people just aren't going to say that about, but he really is.
What do you think about the McMahon doc? Speaking of that, obviously it's on Netflix, but what do you think about it?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm halfway through it right now. I'm glad that they're being thorough. I haven't got to the point where I'm assuming I'm assuming it's gonna take an about face and go in a different direction. I do know that when they started filming, it was before any of the current allegations were out. So I'm sure they had a completely different agenda with the documentary that they had to change on the fly. But I'm glad that they're telling the story. I had no clue about McMahon's childhood. I didn't know anything about his relationship with his father. So it's been eye-opening even for someone who knows Vince. I mean, I wouldn't say we're buddies, but I mean, I do know Vince, and just to think of how guarded he's been. I did think it was funny when he's talking about going through and just raiding the territories of all their stars. And then when it happened to him with WCW, how he didn't see it, how he thought it was unfair. Like that's just ego and hypocrisy at its finest.
I love that they gave the Bischoff perspective though, because I was like, Eric's 100% right. Vince did the same exact thing in the 80s.
Exact same thing. And he did it because he was able to pay guys more. I mean, that's all it is. At the end of the day, money talks. And the more money you're going to make, that's where you're going to go in this business. And he went up against somebody with a bigger bank account. And all of a sudden, then the evil billionaire Ted Turner.
Yeah, it wasn't Bischoff. It was Ted. It was him versus Ted. Yeah.
It's just hypocrisy at its finest.
I love that they asked him, though. They said, isn't that a little hypocritical? And he's like thinking about it. He's like, well, I guess it can be viewed a little bit hypocritical. It's like, a little bit. It was the whole thing is a hypocritical.
If you open up Webster, that's the definition of it. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But most people don't like their own actions being thrown at them, against them. Most people don't like that.
Yep. Do you think that he was being truthful with a lot of the stuff that he was saying on there or not? Because he kind of says in the beginning, like, you never know when I'm being truthful or not.
Yeah. When I worked with the Brooklyn Nets, we had a guy come in and lead seminars, just sales seminars. But one of the things he did was teach us how to, because a lot of times if you're trying to get a yes from somebody, you can tell with their expression immediately if it's going to be a yes or not. And if it's not going to be a yes, don't waste your time on trying to get a no to a yes, when maybe they're just trying to come up with, I don't want to hurt this person, or they're coming up with excuses. And one of the things they taught us is when you ask somebody a yes or no question and they have to stop to think of the answer for 3 beats, 2, 3, they're coming up with a lie. And a yes or no question. If I have to ask you what was your outfit, of your senior prom? Okay, well, that might be something you have to think about. And what color tux did I wear? That's something you might have to go back and think about. But if I ask you a straight yes or no question, something that's on the top of your head that and you have to stop and think about it, you're not getting a truthful response. And I noticed that Vince does that a lot in the doc. Now, that said, I don't know how they edit it. I'm sure they have creative editors in there. And I also know that in the editing process, sometimes you can ask we don't see the interviewer asking the question, So I do know that they could be asking another question and placing it with a response. I have seen television done that way, but
Oh, yeah.
that's just to build intrigue with the audience, you know. So I don't know. I would say we're probably getting 60 to 70% of an honest Vince, you know. So
Yeah, because he even kind of says like he's like guarded. He doesn't know which
yeah,
McMahon he wants to let out, so he's kind of thinking of his answers or being very guarded about it for sure.
yeah.
But
Well,
sometimes he says some wacky stuff.
yeah, well, you know, also when they say, you know, how much of I remember one part they said how much of Mr. McMahon, the character, was Vince, and he's and none. And then everyone else that they asked the exact same question said, well, there's a little bit, you know, and
Yeah,
others said, yeah, that's Vince. You know, that's Vince just with the volume turned up or what you're seeing, that's Vince. You know, and I don't know if it's just maybe just self-actualization. He couldn't accept that the Vince, you know, that Vince is Mr. McMahon. I do know that a lot of times, you know, the way we want to see the way we want the world to perceive us is not the way they do.
yeah,
You know, so and there's there's not many people that are going to view Vince and you know, feel an overwhelming feeling of just he's a victim. Not many people.
right. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
What would you?
he's definitely going. He wants to be the victim. You can tell,
Yeah,
and all that. Yeah,
which is crazy. A billionaire victim? Like, yeah, I don't know
yeah.
about that.
I mean, yeah. I do know that when you get to Vince's age, you've already planted the seeds of your life, and what comes up, that's it was sowed by your hands.
Right.
So
Yeah, well
yeah,
said. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
What would your
That's
answer
that.
be?
Hey, that said, I'm not sitting here talking to you without Vince McMahon.
Right.
You know, and I can also compartmentalize the two. I saw a side of Vince that I will always appreciate, you know, and I will always have respect and on some level a love for the man, you know, and that'll upset people. Does that mean I agree with everything he's done or how he's treated people? Absolutely not. But I can compartmentalize the two. Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure Jeffrey Dahmer's parents, didn't appreciate what he had in his freezer, but
Right. Right.
they still loved him as their son. So
Yeah, there's different parts of him and different relationships that he had. It's not just like all
absolutely,
encompassing 100% this way.
absolutely. I don't view people as an old Roman Caesar type of mentality, either thumbs up or thumbs down. It's people can have I can have different views on just different parts of people's lives.
Right.
And
How they
and
are to
and
you.
I also know I hope people don't look at the worst parts of my life and make a flat judgment on me. I
Yep.
hope they're able to to go and just look at the whole, at what I was trying to do, and maybe where I've fallen short. Just hey, he learned from that and moved on. That's what I hope anyway.
Like Bruce was bringing up a good point, kind of saved his wife. He had terminal cancer and he
Yeah,
gave him, all this money and support and help and doctors. And all. So, I mean, there is obviously a few different sides to a person.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Listen, the night, like I've said it, the night my mom died, and I don't even know how he found out. I went and did all the stuff, the legal stuff you have to do with the coroner coming picking up a body, and I'd done all that. My mom had passed. I think it was within about 4 hours, and I'm driving the hour drive home, and I get a call from Vince. I don't know how he knew. He didn't have to call. He could have waited till the next day. He could have had his secretary called. He could have sent a text message. There's a lot of things he didn't have to do, and he did. So, I mean, I don't know. As human beings are, people are onions, man. There's a lot of layers to people,
Yep.
and that's again why I refuse to see people the way the Coliseum did, thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right. What would you answer that question though if they said to you and you're on the dock, like, is Mr. McMahon like Vince or is Vince like Mr. Like, what would your answer be if they asked you about it?
Oh, he's definitely that. Yeah, he's definitely that. That said, that's with the volume turned up.
Right.
You know, the Rock is Dwayne Johnson, but with the volume turned up. Steve Austin is that with the volume turned up. You know that walk Steve has where it's a little like I can't describe it. It's just for some way he makes it look cool. That's how he walks backstage when the cameras aren't on him. That's just who he is. You know, and to, I mean, you have to be like a Doink the Clown or something to have, you know, a gimmick completely not be who the person is, you know,
Right.
something like that. And I just, yeah, that's definitely who. But again, and people said it too. I think Tony Atlas stated it perfect. Vince didn't see black. He didn't see white. He saw green. He's a businessman. And you make money. You make him money. He loves you. He will utilize you. You're his best friend. And the day you don't make him money anymore, he moves on to someone that does. I mean, is he wrong for that? I don't think so. I hold no ill will, you know, for the career I had. You know, I'm not going to be the one sitting here, oh, the writers, they did this wrong, or Vince didn't do this right, you know. No. Like I have to give them, you know, I have to give them stuff that that sparks a light that they go, ooh, and case in point, John Cena. John Cena is one of the worst technical wrestlers I've ever seen in my life.
God, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he just is. And
Yeah.
people get mad at me for saying that. And I dare him. Show me a punch he's thrown that looks good, you know. But what John did was John showed them something that they can market. And John just continued. John's the best at marketing himself, and he showed them, hey, this is what you have in me. And yeah, that was genius. That was genius.
Just like Warrior, it's like charisma and star power. You never see him throw a good punch or anything. You know what I mean? It's just,
Ever.
but yeah, yep.
He shook ropes. He shook ropes.
But was a star. Yeah.
The people came with it though.
Yeah.
The people
Huge
came
star.
with it.
Huge star.
Yeah.
Now go back to Taker for a second. That Royal Rumble spot in '02, and I'm sure you get access like a million times where people always want to talk to you. Who comes up with that? Is that like he's saying he wants to put you over and do that spot, or is that like Patterson or whoever's writing it saying, "Hey, we got this spot for Maven"?
For years, I thought it was Shane and Taker, and then when I did Taker's pod, Taker corrected me. He was like, "Man, that was my idea." Taker
Wow.
went to them because he was turning heel, he was heel, and he needed something to do to just, you know, he had to have something that would land. And what's a better way to do that than the kid that just won Tough Enough, doesn't even have wrestling gear at this point? You know, let me just destroy him. And it worked. And at the same time, it gave me a career, gave me legitimacy, while does not damage Taker one bit. Didn't hurt him, didn't hurt his gimmick, didn't hurt his persona, didn't hurt his character, didn't hurt his legacy in any way. And the way that they wrote it up and the way he came up with it, with me catching him with the move I did, with his back turned, it was perfect. It's the one thing I can say I was in one part of wrestling's history that landed perfect. And I mean, and again, I struggle thinking what happens if I miss that drop kick.
Oh my God! Imagine after he went to bat for you and said he wants you to do the spot with him.
We're not starting a wrestling match. I'm not eliminating Taker all by myself. You know.
Yep.
It's just, yeah. I'll probably never seen after that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JR's awesome on that call too, because like Undertaker's face is like, did that just happen? And he's like, oh my God, he did great.
JR was perfect. The Kevin Dunn in the truck had the cameras working perfect, because after you see the elimination and they got it perfect from the side, because you could see, like, I kicked the shit out of Taker. And when he went over the ropes, you see his face kind of get hung up on the rope because of momentum. And then they cut to a different, handheld, and it's that handheld like Undertaker's face. And you see just it's kind of a mix between shock, anger, and disbelief. And then they flash cut to my jubilant and real reaction, and me just in the ring, getting it, cheering with the crowd, going up on the ropes. And then I step down and I see what I've done. It's really perfect television. Perfect television.
That was great. Were you legitimately excited? Like, did you get caught up in the moment?
Absolutely. What you see is real. And then an extension of that, when Taker comes in and you see me like, whoa, and I think you see me mouth, I'm only doing what I had to do. For a second, John, I really thought he was pissed. And in my mind, I'm thinking, did I kick him too hard? This is like, at this point, this is like as legendary as a person as I've worked with. And I kicked the shit out of him. And he's looking like he's mad at me. And I'm like, what did I, like, oh God, what did I do? Am I really, is he really mad at me? And it was real. It was real. And I finally realized that everything was good when he went to punch me. And then in one of the punches, he hits me, and he told me, he's like, calm down, kid, calm down. And, and then I was like, okay, all right, we're where we need to be.
Right, right.
But at that point, he needs me to start selling. So, yeah.
So when he's kicking your ass, it wasn't like he was pissed and he's really, I'm going to throw this greenhorn around. Not at all, right?
My night was over after that. I just had to sell. It was easy. The chair shot, all the rest of it was easy at that point. It was cake. I hit the drop kick, Yeah.
That's great too, because he gets his heat back, but everyone's kind of like, "Wow, you just got eliminated by Maven." But then he's so pissed, he's like, "I'm going to kick this kid's ass all over the arena."
Absolutely,
Screw that.
absolutely. And well, and just further do what a heel would do in that scenario. Again, he's just amazing.
Technically, you never get eliminated from that Rumble, so obviously that your title match against Jericho makes sense because you were never really eliminated. I like that too, little teaser in there.
Exactly. And I think that was a bit of last minute preparations, because that wasn't originally the plan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But with all the just because everybody started talking about that. Well, Maven won, because that Rumble, that's all people talked about. They didn't talk about Hunter winning. They didn't talk about any of the subsequent matches. And so once people was talking about that, you then have to pay it off. And the best way to do that is to have me fight Jericho. And it's crazy because I wrestled Jericho in the Richmond Coliseum, and that's the arena I watched my very first wrestling match at.
Wow.
That's circle. life going full circle right there. Yeah. And wow. I got to it's funny because Taker got to come down. Jericho hit me with the walls. Taker comes down, beats on me a little bit. We do the throat spot with the chair. And as they're carrying me out, I had my friends off to the side. I got them tickets and I knew where they were. And they're carrying me out, and they told me, all right, we're off air now. And I completely broke character. I like raised up and like smiled at him and like waved at him. Probably could have gotten some trouble for that, but we were off air. So, yeah.
I think I heard you saying like that spot didn't hurt. It looks like there's no way that it can't hurt. Wow. It just looks like it would jar your neck.
It's the easiest spot. Easiest spot. If I was with you, I could show you how to do it. Because when Taker takes the chair, and actually I showed Crowbar how to do it, and he recently did it at a show. When he takes the chair and puts it underneath my chin, at that point, I grab the sides of the chair. Once I grab the sides of the chair, I'm in control of it. And he rears me back, and as he's driving me down, it's just an optical illusion. It looks like it's going on my throat, but since I'm holding it, I'm controlling it. The chair never touched my throat. And then on top of that, the tossing of the chair after, it just makes it look devastating.
Yeah. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, he just killed the guy. Jeez. I
It
mean,
does. It did look devastating. It did
yeah.
look devastating. Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, wow, he eliminated the guy from the Rumble like you're allowed to do, and now he's trying to
Yeah.
decapitate the guy.
Yep.
What is Undertaker's problem? What a
Exactly.
heel! What a damn heel this guy is. So, what was your
But
first show at Richmond?
but oh my gosh, it was an NWA show
Oh, okay,
back in the mid 80s. And I'll give you a few people on the card. Uh the Road Warriors wrestled the Rock and Roll Express, and oh my gosh, the Midnight Express were on the card. The main event was Magnum TA versus Ric Flair. And
awesome.
yeah, Tully Blanchard was there. Oh, it was just great. Yeah. Somewhere I have a old Road Warriors shirt, and it's like
Oh,
a cut off shirt, and I got like a big afro, and I'm wearing it. I gotta find that picture. It's gold. It's gold.
finish your thought on that spot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No, no,
say.
no. I was just going to say, and even after the Taker with the chair on the throat, we then got to transition that to the Hardcore Championship, and me winning, beating him for the Hardcore belt. It was
Yeah,
it's just one thing just leading to another, and it was just perfect, just perfect television, and it gave me a career. It gave me, people always ask about, did you have heat backstage? Did you have heat? Did you have heat? When you're working with Taker and he's vouching for you, it's hard for other guys to get mad at you. Like,
yep.
it's just difficult. So
Ultimate respect.
I if I wasn't worthy, he wouldn't work with me. So yeah.
And it seems like you're pretty humble too, so I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure there's heat or jealousy, like this guy didn't come in the right way, or he didn't go through the territories, didn't go through the system, or whatever. I'm sure there's heat, but if you're a humble guy like you, I can't see, and Undertaker respects you, I can't see you getting too much heat.
Nah, well, my dad taught me at a very early age, know your role, know your place, keep your mouth shut. If you're in a room where you shouldn't be talking, guess what? Don't talk. And if you're in a room where you should be learning, keep your ears open. And that's what I did. When I was in any match, I just kept my mouth shut, and I did a lot of this. Okay. Yes, I'll do that. Billy Gunn's telling, we were having, matches with Billy Gunn, Billy and Chuck versus me and Al. Okay. You got it. I'll do it. I'm not adding 2 cents in. Well, what if I do this? Nah, I kept my mouth shut. I knew the opportunity I had, and I knew I wasn't gonna lose it due to disrespect. So,
Love
yeah,
that. Did any of the guys think though, like, hey, this guy came in through tough enough, like that's not the
yeah.
way to come in? Was that a known thing backstage? The guys were like, oh come on, this tough enough thing. What is this nonsense?
I'm sure they all thought it. I'm sure every one of
Hmm.
them thought it. I'm sure every single one of them thought it, but I guarantee you, every one of them would have taken the opportunity of giving it. Guaranteed. Hey,
Yeah,
you're gonna be fast tracked. You're not gonna have to toil on the indies. You get an opportunity to prove what you got early. Who's not signing up for that? You know,
yeah, yep.
so
And it's funny you mentioned the Richmond show. I was just thinking, do you remember Joe Millionaire, Evan Marriott? He was on the
oh
reality show.
yes, yeah, I remember Joe
Yeah,
Millionaire, the very first one. He was a
yeah,
construction worker. Me and
yes.
Randy actually went to his house after a show in L.A. Yeah,
Wow, yeah,
yeah,
because
he had a
he was
house
a
on the beach.
wrestler. He was a
Yeah,
trained wrestler too for a while, but I was just thinking, I remember he said he went to his first shows in Richmond. He's like, remember the Italian Stallion and Gene Ligon? They
yeah,
opened the card and like, just I was for some reason I was thinking reality show,
yeah.
reality show. Yeah, interesting. Like in that
Oh yeah.
area, everybody loved
Yeah.
NWA.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's because we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, the Instagrams, Facebooks. We had television. And if you had television, if you had cable television, I know that meant for me, I had 12 channels. I got cable TV when I was 10 years old, and it was 12 channels. And
Wow.
one of those 12 channels was like TBS, and TBS on Saturdays would show a ton of old WCW matches, and like I remember during the day they would show the studio shows, and then at night they would televise the oh gosh, I don't even remember what they would call it at the time.
Like arena
But
shows or whatever?
yeah, yeah. But and then you remember at the bottom what would be the Chiron now, the crawler,
Yep.
they would have like the upcoming towns going across the bottom. And they would have all these towns. And anytime I would see Richmond Coliseum, I would go yell at my mom.
We gotta go. We gotta go to
Yeah.
the So who
Yeah.
was your guy? The Road Warriors, that was your guys? Or was it Flair?
Probably the Four Horsemen. To this day, I still think those promos Flair cut in the Horsemen, and Arn could cut a promo to that's just like, to me, Flair still just cuts the best promo of all time.
I
He
always
was
loved
so good.
Arn just because I don't know, it was like he was so serious. Like Flair sometimes would go off the
Yeah.
rails, but he was so serious. Like this guy's legit. This
Yeah.
guy's he's no fool around. This
Yeah.
guy is very serious. Yeah.
That no name has ever been given than the Enforcer for
Yes.
Arn.
Yes.
He looked and acted like an enforcer. And it just goes to show how much you don't know about wrestling as a kid. Because, oh my God, if you could give me one person's physique, it would have been Lex Luger. Lex
Yeah.
Luger, like he just looked different. And until I saw like a Dave Batista, in peak Batista season, time. And like Lex he looked like a warrior. And then again, once you get into the business, you realize, oh God, he sucked. Like he was the shits.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Some of those guys like Arn. I was a huge Arn fan. I don't know why. I just loved Arn. But if you ever watch, like he gets his ass kicked a lot. He's bumping, he's selling. Him and Tully are all over the place.
But that's what made Arn great, because he
Yes.
could sell so good. Arn, it was like an early vision of Dolph Ziggler.
Yep.
Dolph made other guys look so good because of the way he could sell.
I was joking with Arn. I was saying like about the Steiner brothers. He's like, "Oh God, work with them." He goes, "It was like a pinball and like a pinball machine." He goes, "Boom,
Yeah.
bing, bang, boom." They're throwing me all around. I'm like, "Yeah, but you made him look like $1 million,
Made him look like $1 million.
even
Yeah.
though you're selling and you're on the defensive, but he made them look good with the selling."
Have you ever met Scott? Scott was one of the guys that shocked me the most. And I'll tell you what I mean. There was a house show loop that we had. And on the loop, we had, and I don't know why they did it, but they had me for 3 nights wrestling Scott. And, a run sheet of a house show is not that, it's pretty basic. It's handwritten, and they make one of them. And they would handwrite who's wrestling who, and whoever they underlined, that's who's going over. And they had Maven versus Scott Steiner, and they had Maven underlined. And I'm like, what? Like, he's gonna kill, like, Scott's gonna kill me. And leading up to Scott coming in, I was terrified. I thought he was just gonna be mad. He was like, and I apologized to him when I went up to him. I'm like, "Oh, Scott, I'm sorry. Like, not my doing." And he was like, "I don't care." He's like, "We'll do it. No problem." And it just shocked me. Scott gets such a bad rap from people for being this and being that. Couldn't have been easier to work for me. Could not have been easier to work with. And every time I went to pin him for that weekend, he said, "Thank you." And it's just, yeah, again, just, people's perception. A lot of times on my channel, when I'm talking about other guys, people get mad and they say, "Well, you're just showing the good. You're only highlighting the good." Well, there's enough in this world that highlights only the bad. I'm
Yeah.
going to do the reverse. I'm going to talk about the good in people again, because that's what I hope and that's what I want for people to do for me. And just like this, just like life goes in full circle, this conversation goes in full circle where we talk about hypocrisy. I try to live my life hypocrisy free, and I'm not perfect at it. But have you ever met Rick Steiner?
Yes, both of them I've met. Yep.
To this day, I've never, and I grew up. My dad to this day, in his mid-70s, could put me on the ground with a handshake. And he just grew up in a different time. He grew up on a chicken farm in the 50s and 60s. And only person's hand I've ever shook that was harder than my dad's is Rick Steiner's. Rick has
Wow.
like Rick. It feels like he has like two softballs in his hands. And I just remember, and like because I'll shake people's hands, and I'll be like, "Ow!" And Rick made me feel like a child when I shook his hand. Yeah.
That's like my dad used to always do it to me. If you didn't look him in the eye and
Oh
give him
yeah.
like a hard handshake, he like literally could just break your. Because he got like
Yeah.
almost like a little bear claw. It's like he would just
Yep.
crush your hand. So you made
Yeah.
sure you look, and you made sure you gave it back, so it was even,
Yep.
But it was like
Absolutely.
if you didn't, yeah, you're like, oh damn, like your knuckles start crunching together. You got to
That
give it a
that
good handshake.
that's the sign that your father taught you well,
Mm,
because there's nothing worse than when someone shakes your hand and don't and does not look you in the eye, and also when they just give you a weak handshake, man, that tells me a lot about a person. That tells me a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what is that old wrestler thing they used to do with the weak handshake? I guess to let them know they're in on something, like you give them a weak handshake.
No, it was to let them know that you're safe, your body's safe with me.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, to that I this is how I don't work stiff. I don't work stiff. That's what that was for.
Oh, okay. I remember
Yeah,
meeting Hacksaw Jim Duggan years ago, and I didn't realize how big his hands were. I remember shook his hand. I
yeah,
was like, "Holy mother!" I was like, "Man, he's got like no wonder he's knocking people out with one punch.
yeah,
He's got like a bear claw as a hand."
yeah. He's a big guy. Like you don't realize how big some of these guys are. They're just
Yeah,
monsters. But together they look normal. It's like take basketball. Steph Curry on an NBA floor looks tiny. Well, Steph Curry's still like what 6'4".
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like in the real world, Steph Curry's a big dude, but around all these trees, he looks smaller.
yeah. And he's got to shoot rainbows over guys. It's like, wow,
Mhm.
he's not that big, and then you see him in person, like, yeah, he's huge. Yeah, he's
And
a
you're
big
like
boy.
this, yeah,
Uh, like this guy'd be
yeah,
the center of my high school team or whatever.
yeah.
Like this
I
guy,
know.
he'd be the tallest kid in high school. Yeah, crazy.
I still remember meeting LeBron James his rookie year at 18 years old, and thinking I didn't know 18-year-olds could be this big. You know,
Yeah,
we
he's like,
certainly didn't have like anybody like that in my high school.
yeah, he's like 6'8", right? I mean, he's a pretty big dude.
Yeah, and I mean he's bigger now, thicker, but he was not small. Like he was a big kid. Yeah.
You know what's funny when you said that about Steiner? I was thinking as I interviewed him a few months ago, and I was thinking like, man, I've heard like a bad reputation, like just from other people, like he's mean, he's Scott Steiner, he throws people around the ring if he wants to. He couldn't have been nicer. I was like, man, he's
Yeah.
awesome. Like he gave me like
Yeah.
all the time. He was so cool. I was like, damn. I was like, I don't know why I was nervous going in. I was like, he's the
Yeah.
man.
I was literally sweating bullets for about a good because I got to the arena for that first house show. I was sweating bullets for probably a good 30 minutes
Wow.
before I got to see Scott. Yeah, just because I mean, like I'm not an idiot. If me and Scott were in a real fight, I'm not winning. Like
Right.
that's not
Right.
happening. Like I'm not winning.
Yeah.
and
Yep.
and I didn't know how, just the mad that would make him, but no, he could not have been nicer.
He's
Yeah.
humble too because I was like, "Oh, you and your brother are like two of the toughest guys." He goes, "Nah." He goes, "Haku and Barbarian would kick our ass." But then you ask Haku and Barbarian, and they said the Steiner brothers. So it's like at least he's humble about it too.
Well, listen, I mean, there's just say what you want about Scott. Like, there's a difference in the professional world between entertainers and shooters. I was an entertainer. Like, yeah, if I go out in my gym and I can handle myself around those guys, and no one's going to take liberties with me in the real world. You get into a situation like that, and with these shooters, like I remember Shelton Benjamin. I used to try like Shelton and me would go roll around, and he would have his way with me. And it's just there's just some guys that are just different. And then you take like the Hakus and you take the Steiners, like those guys they're just different individuals. And then on the top of that list, and yeah, Haku's probably the king of that list, but very right under him, 2002, I put Kurt Angle on that list. I don't know many people that probably could have got the better of Kurt. Yeah, he was just a tough son of a bitch who could flip a switch.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Man, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Funny, even Taker was talking about Haku, about how when he was wrestling, I guess it was
Oh,
01 when they were exchanging chops. Whatever. He's like, "Oh shit!" He goes, "I forgot who I was in the ring with for a second there." He's like, "Ooh, I almost like lost myself," because he didn't want to go like toe to toe with him almost. I was like, "Wow,
yeah.
even Undertaker saying that about Haku." I was like, high praise there.
Oh, it's just a known fact in the wrestling world that it just gets no tougher than hot. And when you meet him, and because I met him, he was at one of my first shows when I got to HWA, and I knew a little bit of the reputation just from what other guys would tell me. And he couldn't have, he was just the most soft spoken, just kind individual. And I'm thinking, God, this guy's could, we were out of the bar at this point. And I'm like, he could roll through this whole bar,
Yeah.
and he's not, and he's not.
I feel like he's almost more dangerous that he's like quiet about it because then you know, like, oh, okay, this guy's not to be trifled with. Usually the loudmouths are like the BSers. You know what I mean? He's so quiet and calm. It's like this guy, I wouldn't want to mess with this guy. He's too quiet.
What do they say? What was the quote from Denzel Washington in American Gangster? The loudest one in the room is the weakest one.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
Good point. Yep.
yeah. So that's Haku. I
Ha-
know in a wrestling locker room there wasn't anyone that was about to try him. I do know
yeah.
that.
How long were you in HWA for? I know you trained with Les for a little bit. Was that a long time or a short period of time?
Well, it was probably supposed to be longer than it was. I was there a few months, and then once I got the hardcore title, because Les didn't run it the way Cornette ran OVW. Like Cornette really ran it, and Cornette, you like if you weren't there, he was calling the office. Les didn't do it that way. Once I won the hardcore title, man, I told Howard Finkel, just because he asked me at TV. He was like, "Maves, where are we flying you this week?" And I was like, "Virginia." I just stopped going.
Wow. Really? Just like that? No
Yeah, I
problem.
just stopped going. No one ever gave me shit about it. No one ever said a
Wow.
word. Once I got on the road and was wrestling a full house show schedule, I just stopped going. And now that wouldn't have happened under Cornette. Cornette would have said, "I don't give a shit if you're on the house shows. You're still coming here."
Right.
He wouldn't have cared. But
That's
yeah,
funny.
I just stopped going.
And they probably think, oh, he's the hardcore champion. He's gone. He's above
Yeah,
us now. Like let him go. Yeah. That
yeah. I was wrestling, but this was when once I started wrestling a full house show schedule. And well, once I was doing that, I did not want to come off the road and then go and spend my 2 days off doing blow up drills in Cincinnati.
right, right. Yeah, you didn't need
Yeah,
that at that point. Yeah,
nah. Well, I probably needed it. I just didn't want it.
right, right. Well, physically for your body, you didn't need that. You didn't
Mhm.
want to go through that.
Yeah, exactly.
So as we hit the wind down here, we head towards the finish. Just what is next for you, the YouTube channel? Because there's been so much success from the channel already, but like, what can we expect from the channel coming up?
Thank you. First off, appreciate it. We're just going to continue to try to put out the content that we're putting out. We're about to start a different, a channel membership side, and with the membership side, it's going to be pretty cool. There are some videos that we want to make, we just know they wouldn't do good. Like if I made a video where for instance, I did a shoot interview right after I got released, and I'd love to do a video where I critique what I'm saying in that video, because I was pretty bitter and pretty angry at this point. And 20 years later, I'm just in a different headspace
Right.
now. And I'm just, I've been able to almost look at my career from the outside, and rather than realize what I didn't get, be thankful for what I did. But we also know that video would not do well on the channel. But there's probably 50,000 people that regularly view our stuff that would like to see that. Well, we want to give them an opportunity and a place to see those videos. And my partner Zach and I, we're going to, with the memberships, we're also going to do every Saturday. We're going to go live and explain what our thoughts were in the video, because we have pretty funny stories with getting a lot of these videos done. And
Behind the
it's
scenes, I like that.
yeah, it's going to be behind the scenes, and it's just going to be a way of being able to answer questions. Like we get so many questions and I just can't physically get to them all. So with the memberships, it'll be able to take that. I think we have like 400 and I think 80,000 subscribers right now. And I realize of those 480, there's probably 20,000 hardcore just would watch whatever. If I did a video of me mowing the lawn, they'd watch it. You know, and we want to service them while keeping the channel the exact same. Nothing's going to change. We're still going to put out the same videos on the on the non-pay side, but we just want to offer something for for the hardcore fans. And it won't be expensive. I think we're talking about like $4 a month. You know, we're not trying to retire off of it.
Right.
But just trying to take what we have and just provide more.
485, by the way, 485,000. So don't
Oh, is
shortchange
it?
yourself. Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I've been traveling and stuff so much the last few weeks. I haven't even jumped on it. Like I haven't even been able to jump on it for a while. Yeah.
Are you just amazed at that? And like 7 million, 75 million, like views. I mean, are you just shocked about the success? I mean, it's been awesome.
Shock of my life. I'm actually more shocked of the success of the channel than I am that I won Tough Enough.
Wow. Oh my God.
I knew I was going to win Tough Enough probably the last like 4 weeks
Nice.
that we were there. Like I mean, once I told him I had to leave, I told him I was like, I don't want to quit, but I have to because my mom's sick, and her sister just told me she might not make it through the weekend, so I think I need to. And when they stopped me and was like, hey, how about we'll put the show on hold and we'll send you home and you can make an assessment after that. Once that happened, then I was like, okay, because anyone else like that hinted that they wanted to leave, they were like, there's the door, bye.
Right.
So I wasn't shocked by that. But when we first started the channel, you want to know what success was to me after 1 year? Success to me after 1 year was 50,000 subscribers and hopefully making a few $1,000s and just extra income a month. Like, and the fact that we did that within 2 months, it just, yeah.
It's amazing.
But I also think people appreciate the fact that I don't blame anyone else for my failures but me. The fact that I own my baggage, I own my mistakes, and I'm able to talk about them and talk about where I messed up. The fact that I'm able to give takes on other people and give positive information. There's enough, like, if you want to find something negative about somebody, it's not hard to find it. I don't want to add to that mess. I want to be positive with how I view people. I mean, take for instance, like on my rating of a wrestler's 3, I think I went in at the very end about Chris Benoit. I think there is a way to talk about what he accomplished in the ring while showing respect for Danny and Nancy, while talking about the heinous acts that occurred in Georgia. It's two things can be true.
Right.
And
Definitely.
so I think people, because that's the comment that we get the most, is just I appreciate your just openness and your honesty. Man, I'm almost 50 years old. At this point, if you don't like me, get in line and like what, we're not gonna be buddies, like, or like what are we not gonna do? Are we not gonna go out to dinner anymore?
Right.
I'm who I am, and it's fine.
It's refreshing though, because honestly, YouTube, there are dedicated wrestling channels that are negative, just 100% negative, rip everything. Even Star Wars, there's a negative star, like they hate Star. It's like, why wouldn't you just not talk about it? Like you have to, any channel dedicated to negativity, it sucks.
But you know why? Because negativity sells.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I told my partner going into it, I said, there's 2 things I don't want to do. And 2 things I refuse to do. I don't want to tell other people's stories. Like, I'm not going to stand in there and like the Booker T and Batista brawl backstage.
Right.
you know, I was there for that, but that's not my story to tell.
Yep.
You know, and I don't want to tell other people's stories, and I don't want to bury anyone or be negative about anyone. There's plenty of people doing that, and if that's what they do, that's fine. Like that, like there's room for everybody. But I was taking I was taking I was betting on that people wanted something different, and I'm happy that we were right.
Absolutely. So where can everybody find you and the channel?
Just YouTube, and it's look, just Google Maven Huffman, and you will see it. And the same under Instagram, and I think I have a Facebook page, but my partner runs that. We're in the process right now of putting together a Snapchat page too. So,
Nice.
but we push that out on a company that they're doing that, because I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
Let them do that crap. Yeah, you just be the
Man,
talent.
well, it's funny because I have two YouTube accounts, and one of them's the channel, and then I have
Yep.
another one. That's the one like I watch all my private personal videos on, and the channel one is the when like if I want to comment to anybody,
Yep.
and yeah, I had to be taught how to do all that.
I love it. But Maven, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
And I have an Instagram account with the same. I don't know if I said. I'm pretty sure I said that, but thank you, John. Always a pleasure, brother. Always, and I wish you continued success and continued luck. And just let me know. We'll do it again anytime you want, brother.
Awesome. Thank you.
You got it,